Hi, I'm Eric McGhee, and I'm a policy fellow at the Public Policy Institute of California, studying politics and elections. We just had an exciting and important election, both nationally and in California. So I'd like to take this opportunity to talk briefly about what happened and to put the results in the broader context of California's political history. California was once a fairly reliable win for Republicans in presidential elections, but over the last 2 decades, it has become one of the most reliable in the Democratic column instead. Ironically, this change has coincided with a long-term decline in the share of voters registered with both parties and an explosive growth in the share of independents. But when pressed in surveys, these independents tend to lean Democratic, and they vote reliably that way. So that makes the state far more Democratic than it would appear to be in official reports of registration. These trends in part reflect changes in demography in the workforce. The state is more diverse than it was 50 years ago. Whites make up a minority of the population, and while they still account for a majority of the electorate, that too is steadily shrinking. At the same time, a much larger share of the state's workers can be found in so-called knowledge industries like entertainment and high tech, where support for Democrats tends to be stronger. This Democratic trend is only accelerating over time. Democratic registration, which as I said had been falling for decades, has actually remained flat since 2004. While Republican registration has continued to drop. The most recent report of registration put the Republican numbers below 30% for the first time. In fact, there are about 400,000 fewer registered Republicans today than there were 8 years ago, even though we have 1.6 million more voters. These trends helped translate into a good night for Democrats on November 6th. Barack Obama and Democratic Senator Dianne Feinstein both won clear and sizable majorities. And while some of these races are still incredibly close, it looks like the Democrats have claimed 2/3 of the seats in both chambers of the legislature. This 2/3 is a crucial threshold that allows Democrats to pass tax increases without any Republican support. In fact, it's the first time either party has cleared 2/3 since the threshold was established as part of the Proposition 13 tax reform in 1978. Democrats also appear to have gained 4 more House seats, for 38 out of the total 53. How did Democrats have such a good night? It's not yet completely clear, but some of the broad outlines are coming into focus. Redistricting was certainly part of the story. The congressional lines offered a larger number of competitive seats, which gave Democrats the chance to reflect their growing registration advantage in new members of Congress. And while the new state Senate map wasn't much better for Democrats than the old one, the 20 seats it put in play this year were actually worse for Republicans. The 20 on the ballot in 2014 are more Republican-friendly, so the party might win back some of its losses then. But neither explanation applies to the Assembly, where all the seats were contested, and the new redistricting plan was no better for Democrats than the old one. Instead, the Democratic Party appears to have benefited substantially from a combination of its growing strength in the electorate and some remarkable turnout. The fall electorate was much more Democratic than the one that turned out in the primary. In a competitive race, the Democrat ran about 5 points better on average than the party's performance in June. Moreover, according to exit polls, core Democratic constituencies like Latinos and voters under 30 turned out at a higher rate than in the 2008 presidential election, which already had high turnout for those groups. Republican participation was down sharply. Some of these changes may reflect the longer-term trends we've already described, but the impact on the election was the same. In sum, the state has been trending Democratic for some time, but the outcome in 2012 was even more Democratic than that trend might have led us to expect. The result? One for the history books. Thanks for watching.